Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are entering a new era after their historic Madison Square Garden wedding. With an NFL career and global music empire to balance, the couple is building a life unlike any other celebrity pair. But the next move they're planning could change the game for sports and entertainment forever. The black cars started rolling in around 3 in the afternoon. By evening, dozens of black cars dropped off elegantly dressed guests outside of Madison Square Garden in New York City. And the city that never sleeps had its eyes locked on one building. Inside, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce were about to become husband and wife. There were no bridesmaids, no groomsmen. Instead, Swift's brother Austin Swift served as her man of honor. And Jason Kelce was Travis's best man, with the ceremony joining both families together. The officiant wasn't a judge or a priest. It was Adam Sandler, a friend of the couple who also starred alongside Kelce in Happy Gilmore 2, and has been a guest on Kelce's New Heights podcast. Outside, fans stood behind barricades for hours in rising heat, waiting for any glimpse of what was happening. They weren't disappointed for long. As night fell, pink lights flashed and Justin T. Married signs surrounded Madison Square Garden, while a few blocks over, the Empire State Building was lit up in blue in their honor, a nod to the old wedding rhyme about something borrowed and something blue. The guest list was staggering, around 1,000 people packed into the arena, and it read like a cross-section of Hollywood, the NFL, and pop music all at once. Steven Spielberg, Gigi Hadid, Bradley Cooper, Dakota Johnson, Eric Stonestreet, and Hugh Grant mingled with football royalty. 7-time Super Bowl winner Tom Brady and Andy Reid, Kelce's own head coach with the Chiefs, were both spotted leaving in the early hours. Musicians showed up too. Ed Sheeran, Gwen Stefani, Benson Boone, Jimmy Fallon, and J-Lo among the parade of stars arriving Friday night. Good Morning America anchor George Stephanopoulos was there too, and he didn't hold back afterward. He called the ceremony moving, said Sandler was funny and touching, and described the vows as real, vulnerable, both serious and silly, and deeply loving. He and his co-anchors said the couple had written their own vows in little books. Each one carried up an orange carpeted staircase into what one guest called a garden inside the garden. That detail matters more than it sounds. AMC CEO Adam Aron, one of the guests, described in a since-deleted post how the couple transformed the arena into a secret garden, complete with large photos of Swift and Kelce at every age. This wasn't a quiet courthouse signing. This was a full-scale production, built inside one of the most famous arenas in the world, for two people whose entire relationship had already played out in public for 3 years. And that's the tension sitting underneath all of it. Swift and Kelce didn't just get married. They got married in the most watched, most photographed, most heavily secured way two celebrities possibly could. Security around the event was intense, so it remains unclear if the wedding was charming, if a little gauche, but the spectacle was undeniable, and the security wasn't decorative. There were 135 officers assigned around the venue that Friday, with streets closed off and barricades keeping crowds off the sidewalks. Their attire matched the scale of the event. The couple's rep confirmed that the bride and groom's wedding ceremony looks were created by Christian Dior Haute Couture, designed by Jonathan Anderson in close collaboration with the bride and groom, marking the designer's first couture wedding dress for a world-renowned celebrity. Their shoes came from Christian Louboutin. Swift wore Cartier jewelry. None of this happened by accident or on a whim. This was the product of 11 months of planning that started the moment the world found out Swift and Kelce were engaged. And to understand why this wedding mattered so much, why it's about to reshape both of their lives so completely, you have to go back to how fast this all moved in the first place. The proposal came in a backyard, filled with flowers, and it wasn't some slow burn decision. Sources say the couple bonded over how similar their careers actually are, both of them performing in front of tens of thousands of people for hours at a stretch. Swift said she and Kelce bonded in part over the fact that they both entertained people for 3+ hours in NFL stadiums, and less than 2 weeks after making that comment public, she announced their engagement on Instagram, with photos of that flower-filled proposal and a ring that immediately became one of the most searched images on the internet. The caption itself became a headline in its own right when they announced the engagement with a simple Instagram post last August. It broke the internet, with the couple captioning it, "Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married." From there, speculation about where and when the wedding would happen consumed entertainment coverage for the better part of a year. Fans staked out Swift's Rhode Island estate. They pored over city permits. New York City's mayor reportedly dropped hints in press conferences, and 11 months after announcing the engagement, the pair tied the knot with hundreds of guests in attendance, exactly the kind of turnaround that had fans in a frenzy trying to crack the code for months. But now the wedding is over. The dress has been packed away. The arena has gone back to hosting basketball games and concerts, and the actual work of being married, building a life, figuring out logistics, deciding what comes next, is just getting started. And that work touches nearly everything. Kelce's football career, Swift's music, where they'll live, whether kids are coming, and how much privacy two of the most famous people alive can actually hope to hold on to. Their lives are about to change in ways that go far beyond a ring and a ceremony. And it starts with a sport that almost didn't let this wedding happen on schedule at all. For most of the past year, there was a ticking clock running underneath the wedding planning, and it had nothing to do with caterers or florists. It had to do with football. Kelce is 36 years old and heading into his 14th NFL season, all of it with the Kansas City Chiefs. That kind of longevity doesn't happen without serious planning around scheduling. And for a tight end who plays a physically brutal position, every offseason brings retirement speculation. This year, that speculation collided directly with wedding planning in a way that made headlines of its own. Back in January, on his own podcast, Kelce was asked what he'd miss most about the game whenever he does walk away. He didn't hedge. He talked about the feeling of rising to the occasion in big games, of being there for tens of thousands of fans counting on him, and admitted that particular feeling is one he knows he'll never get back once it's gone. That's not the language of a man who was ready to quit immediately, but it's also not nothing. It's a man thinking out loud about an ending he knows is coming. The Chiefs' 2025 season didn't make the decision any easier. It was a rough year by their standards. The 2025 season marked just the second time in 13 seasons that Kelce missed the playoffs, and quarterback Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL in December, adding even more uncertainty to the picture. Nobody wants to walk away from a career on a losing note, and reports at the time noted that Kelce likely won't want to end his career on a low note, which would happen if he calls it quits after a season where the Chiefs went just 6-11. So the question became, does he play one more season? Or does he retire and dedicate himself fully to married life? For months, nobody outside his inner circle knew the answer. Not even, according to some reports, people close to the team. General manager Brett Veach later revealed just how early the Chiefs actually got clarity on this. He said that the day after their final game, Kelce came in and told the team he wasn't going out like this, and to stay in touch so they could figure something out, which meant the front office knew basically immediately, even while the public speculation dragged on. Then, oddly enough, it was Swift herself who let the secret slip. Appearing on a Kansas City radio show, she was asked whether roster moves might affect Kelce's decision, and she just answered the question everyone had been asking for weeks. She told the hosts plainly that every indication she'd gotten was that Kelce was looking forward to coming back, though the exact timing of the announcement was really his call to make. It was a strange way for the news to come out, not through the team, not through Kelce himself, but through his fiancée on a local radio show, weeks before wedding planning was even finished. The official confirmation came days later. Kelce's own podcast broke the news to the world, posting that he's back with the Chiefs for year 14. And the NFL itself confirmed the same, sharing a video captioned simply, "He's not done yet." For a guy who spent the entire offseason in wedding planning mode with the biggest pop star on the planet, showing up for one more training camp wasn't a small decision. It meant his summer had to be split 3 ways: honeymoon, wedding logistics, and football conditioning, all crammed into a window that barely fit any one of them comfortably. That window was tighter than most people realized. Kelce's contract structure was designed around a possible post-June 1 release to close out his career, and he's owed $12 million fully guaranteed in 2026, which tells you the team built real financial flexibility into this deal, treating it as potentially his farewell season regardless of how well he performs. Meanwhile, training camp for the Chiefs opens on July 24, meaning the newlyweds only had about 3 weeks after the wedding before Kelce had to report back to work. That's an almost impossible timeline for a couple trying to have any kind of honeymoon. Most newlyweds get to disappear for a few weeks without a professional deadline hanging over them. Kelce doesn't have that luxury. Whatever the two of them plan to do with their limited post-wedding window, it has to end with him back in pads, back in meetings, and back to grinding through a season that could genuinely be his last. And that reality changes the entire shape of their new marriage. It's not two people settling into quiet domestic life right away. It's a marriage that has to operate around an NFL calendar for at least one more year. Training camp, preseason, 16 or 17 regular season games, potentially a playoff run, all while Swift continues to run her own massive career in parallel. The wedding might have closed one chapter of speculation, but it opened an entirely new one. How do two people with this much public weight on their shoulders actually build a life together when one of their jobs still runs on somebody else's schedule? That question becomes even more complicated once you add in what the two of them have both hinted they want next. And that's where things get genuinely complicated, because it involves a decision that even people very close to them say hasn't been settled yet. Here's something that would surprise most newlyweds. Swift and Kelce reportedly didn't jet off on a honeymoon right after the wedding. Instead, according to TMZ, the couple is briefly putting their honeymoon on hold to attend the July 11 wedding of Kelce's former teammate, wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, and his fiancée Laura Crook, a ceremony taking place out in Orange County, with other Chiefs players and their families expected to attend. That alone tells you something about how their lives actually work now. Even the honeymoon, supposedly the one truly private, uninterrupted stretch of time a couple gets, has to be scheduled around other people's weddings, football friendships, and a packed social calendar that comes with being this deeply embedded in the NFL world. When the actual honeymoon does happen, reports about it have been wildly inconsistent, almost comically so, which says a lot about how hard the couple has worked to keep it secret. One insider described it as locked down tighter than the wedding itself, saying that Swift and Kelce don't want anyone knowing where they'll be or when, and that they've told almost no one. That same source claimed the trip would island hop through the Caribbean, before moving on to Lake Como in Italy, the French Riviera, Croatia, and Greece, calling it the ultimate bucket list honeymoon with every stop chosen for luxury and privacy. But a separate report from The Sun described an entirely different itinerary, one where the couple goes properly off the grid, starting in the Bahamas, before flying to Lake Como, Paris, the French Riviera, and Croatia, with the Croatian leg reportedly chosen specifically so Kelce could reconnect with his ancestral roots there. That version of the story has them continuing on to a private island in Greece, then Singapore, Australia, and Fiji, before finally wrapping things up in Hawaii, an around-the-world trip that would be logistically enormous for two people who can't exactly move through an airport unnoticed. Whichever version turns out to be accurate, one detail keeps showing up in every report. Privacy is the entire point. One insider put it bluntly, saying the itinerary is flexible enough that they're prepared to change plans at a moment's notice if they feel like they're attracting too much attention. That's not a normal honeymoon concern. That's the reality of being possibly the most photographed couple on the planet, trying to buy themselves a few weeks where nobody's tracking their location. And there's a reason that privacy matters so much right now, beyond just wanting a quiet vacation. Reports in the days after the wedding suggested the newlyweds are already thinking hard about where they'll actually live once married life settles in. And according to some accounts, that decision is tied to something even bigger than real estate. One expert consulted by a national outlet claimed that the couple has decided that, in order to create a calm future and raise a family, they should prioritize their peace and settle in a more secluded location, floating both of their hometowns as options, though possibly eventually landing somewhere in Northern California. That same report claimed the pair would build a home from scratch, designed specifically with family life in mind, complete with space for playgrounds and rooms built for young children. Other sources paint a slightly different picture, one centered less on the West Coast and more on New York City itself, where the wedding took place. Sources describing their post-wedding plans say the couple wants a place that feels like it belongs to both of them equally, not one person moving into the other's existing life. An insider close to the situation put it this way: this is their fresh start. They're not building Taylor's life or Travis's life anymore. They're building one life together, celebrating holidays, hosting friends, raising children, and building a marriage with every decision made jointly. It's a small detail, but it says something bigger about what marriage is actually forcing them to confront. For 3 years, their relationship existed on Swift's turf as often as it existed on Kelce's. Her tour stops, her homes, her schedule increasingly shaping how the public saw them as a couple. Now, married, both versions of the story agree on one thing: whatever comes next has to be built jointly, not simply absorbed into whichever one of them has the bigger spotlight. But underneath all of that talk of playgrounds and family homes sits the one piece of this puzzle that nobody, not even people close to the couple, seems to actually agree on. And it's the question every fan of theirs has been asking since the day the engagement was announced. If you follow the coverage closely, you'll notice something strange. Almost every outlet covering this wedding pivoted immediately to babies, as if marriage automatically means a pregnancy announcement is right around the corner. But the actual reporting on this is far messier and far more honest about how complicated the decision really is. For two people at this level of fame, Swift herself has talked about motherhood publicly, and her answer has shifted noticeably over the years. Years ago, she told a magazine she wasn't sure kids were even in her future, explaining that it's impossible not to picture scenarios where she'd have to convince a child that their life is normal, when in reality, there would always be cameras pointed at them from the moment they were born. That's not a small concern for someone with her level of exposure. It's the central trade-off of fame that she's wrestled with publicly for years. But something shifted. On her most recent album, in a song called Will It, she sings about a very different future. One with kids, a driveway, a basketball hoop, and a wish for the world to just leave them alone. It's the clearest signal she's given that the idea of a family with Kelce isn't just something she's tolerating. It's something she actually wants. Kelce has said similar things to his brother directly, telling Jason on their podcast that he sees kids in their future for sure. That's about as direct a confirmation as either of them has given publicly, and it lines up with everything else reported about their plans for a home built specifically with a family in mind. And yet, despite all of that, the most recent reporting right after the wedding suggests the couple genuinely hasn't decided. Multiple insiders describe them as still working through it, still weighing whether kids are actually the right move given everything else going on in their lives. One insider close to the situation was blunt about why. It's hard to raise a kid in Swift's world specifically because of her security situation. People show up at their door. There are documented threats against her, enough that, according to reports, there are people the FBI has flagged, people on watch lists, and even individual security teams haven't been able to track down or identify at all. That's a genuinely difficult problem, and it's one that doesn't have an easy fix just because two people are in love and financially secure. Raising a child under that level of threat isn't hypothetical caution. It's an active, ongoing security calculation that most new parents never have to think about, let alone plan a nursery around. In the meantime, something smaller has fans convinced they're already rehearsing for parenthood in a different way. Photos surfaced showing the couple with a dog, and speculation exploded that this was a trial run before an actual pregnancy announcement. One source described friends smiling at the rumors, noting that Swift and Kelce have always talked about building a life together, and that whether or not the dog is officially theirs, the people around them see it as a couple settling into married life and looking toward whatever comes next. Another insider suggested that caring for a pet is often viewed as a natural step before children, evidence that the couple has fully embraced the idea of building a family home together, even if the timeline on kids specifically remains unclear. So where does that leave things? Not with a due date, not with an announcement. What it leaves is a couple that clearly wants a family in the abstract, that's building physical space for one, that's shifted its music and its public comments toward that future. But that's also being remarkably honest through the people around them about how genuinely hard that decision is when your day-to-day life includes a documented ongoing threat assessment. Most married couples never have to think about that tension between wanting a normal family life and living a life that is anything but normal. Might be the single biggest thing this marriage is going to have to sort out over the next few years. It's bigger than the house they choose, bigger than which coast they settle on, and it's a tension that stretches into every other part of their newly combined life, including the parts that used to be entirely separate, her music and his football. For 3 years, Swift and Kelce ran two enormous, separate careers that happened to intersect on Sundays and at award shows. Now that they're married, those two machines have to somehow function inside one household, and the early signs suggest neither one of them has any plan to slow down. Start with Swift. Her most recent album, The Life of a Showgirl, dropped just months before the wedding and moved a record-breaking 4 million equivalent album units in its first week. Numbers that put her firmly in a league of her own, even by her own historic standards. That album, by her own account, was heavily shaped by her relationship with Kelce, meaning the two of them have already been creatively entangled for a while now, well before any marriage certificate made it official. Journalists who cover her closely don't expect that creative entanglement to stop now that the wedding's over. Brittany Spanos, a journalist who actually teaches a university course about Swift, said plainly after the ceremony that she thinks there's probably new music coming. A reasonable bet given how thoroughly Swift has mined every major relationship milestone for material across her entire catalog. If that pattern holds, married life with Kelce is likely to become the backdrop for her next creative chapter, the same way the engagement and album cycle became fuel for the life of a showgirl. On Kelce's side, the calculus is entirely different, because his career has a much harder ceiling than hers does. Swift can keep writing and touring well into her 60s if she wants to. Football doesn't work that way. At 36, playing his 14th season, Kelce is operating on borrowed time by NFL standards, and his own comments about missing the feeling of playoff football suggest he knows that better than anyone. His contract, structured for a possible mid-2026 exit, reads like a team and a player both quietly acknowledging that this might be the last lap. That creates an odd asymmetry at the center of this marriage. One spouse's career could plausibly run for decades more. The other's is almost certainly measured in months now, not years. That's not a small adjustment for two people building a life together. It means Swift's touring schedule, recording calendar, and public commitments will likely become the dominant rhythm of their household within just a year or two. Once Kelce's playing days end for good, whatever comes next for him professionally, broadcasting, more podcasting through new heights, business ventures, or simply stepping back entirely, will have to fit around a wife whose career shows no signs of slowing down. There are already small signs of what that next phase might look like. Kelce's philanthropic work, especially his long relationship with Operation Breakthrough, a Kansas City nonprofit he supported since 2015, suggests he has interests well outside football that could easily expand once he's not spending 5 months a year in training camp and game prep. Combine that with the New Heights podcast, which has already become a media property in its own right, co-hosted with his brother, and it's easy to see a version of Kelce's post-football life that stays just as public and just as busy as his playing career, just in a different form. Meanwhile, the wedding itself may have already given the world a preview of how these two intend to blend their public and private lives going forward. The choice to marry at Madison Square Garden, of all places, wasn't subtle. It was a venue built for spectacle, transformed for one night into something between a stadium and a secret garden, guarded by well over 100 officers, with a guest list drawing from music, film, and football all at once. That's not the wedding of two people trying to disappear from public life. That's the wedding of two people who've decided the best way to protect their privacy going forward is to control the biggest moments themselves on their own terms, rather than have them leaked or guessed at by outsiders. That instinct, control what you can, disappear when you need to, seems to be exactly the motto they're carrying into married life. The honeymoon plans, whichever version turns out to be true, are built entirely around unpredictability, changing at a moment's notice if attention gets too intense. The house hunting reports lean towards seclusion. Even the decision about children keeps coming back to the same core issue. How do you build something quiet and safe inside a life that's fundamentally public? What's clear, watching all of this unfold in the days since the ceremony, is that the wedding didn't simplify anything for Swift and Kelce. If anything, it added a whole new set of decisions, on top of the ones they were already managing separately. Where to live, whether to have kids, how to fit a shrinking football career, and an expanding music career under one roof, and how much of any of it they're willing to let the public see going forward. They pulled off the wedding largely on their own terms, using ironclad agreements and heavy security to keep the actual details locked down, until the moment they wanted the world to know. Whether they can pull off the same trick with a honeymoon, a house, a possible pregnancy, and the final stretch of an NFL career remains the open question hanging over everything that comes next. For now, the billboards have gone dark, the arena's back to hosting basketball, and two of the most famous people on the planet are just trying to figure out, like anyone else recently married, what their actual life together is going to look like once the cameras eventually look away. If they ever fully do. Sources, NPR. After weeks of speculation, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce wed in New York. Good Morning America, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce are married. All the details, CNN. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce tie the knot in star-studded ceremony. CNN. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding bash. What you missed. CBS News. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, married in ceremony officiated by Adam Sandler. Billboard, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce wedding details, what we know so far. CBS Sports, Travis Kelce may have just hinted at whether he plans to return to Chiefs. For 2026 season, Pro Football Rumors, Travis Kelce informed Chiefs of 2026 plans following Week 18. Yahoo Sports, Travis Kelce's retirement decision with Kansas City Chiefs revealed. Heavy, Travis Kelce gives retirement update amid Taylor Swift wedding plans. Yahoo Entertainment, a first look at Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's secret newlywed plans, the day after their wedding. Stylecaster, the real reason Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's honeymoon is on hold. Yahoo Entertainment, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce's baby plans revealed, as the couple faces an impossible dilemma. She knows Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's new chapter is all about raising kids.